What was that? Wait.
There we go.
Oh. Ooh, product blocks. Yeah, he's showing this stuff, but I want to know how you make each product a block. Or is it
right?
So if you add products in your WooCommerce, does it automatically add to that product block?
Line right as you're editing it, and then
I think so.
Publish it. It looks great on the front end.
There's Mail Choice
right there. And then BigCommerce, new entrance to WordPress and also new sponsor. So thank you.
Tarot cards.
That's add products, remove products, show what's there. And then on the front end, it looks fantastic. We've got profile.
There's Linky.
We've got recipe blocks.
It does make it easy though.
Yeah. Someone likes to cook.
Are you guys hearing the audio from the talk as well?
Yes, sir.
If you want to predict the future of WordPress, I think you can.
From me or from?
Why is he? Yeah. Why is he using tarot cards?
37 lines of code.
That's kind of
just kind of showing off that using the new React JavaScript framework.
Because it's all a game of chance.
You can create this really cool little.
It was a good thing it wasn't the death card.
Blocks within blocks within.
Oh man, I would love a tarot card reader to tell me what the meaning was of those three cards you chose.
So it provides each of the sub blocks, both has the functionality of full blocks, but also the accessibility. So all the work we did for accessibility around ARIA labels, keyboard navigation, everything. Inherited.
The accessibility audit is going to be
some
happening.
Fun ones, longtime
right
WordPress community member Nick Hemsley has made some fun ones, including a guide post. This is kind of like
coming out asking for a third-party audit. So
create that table of contents.
That's not.
That's nice.
That's not entirely accurate.
Y'all know ghostwriters.
Well, and they're doing it.
They're
also
ghostwrite the WordPress.
Well, so there will be two now, right?
Well,
5 people got that reference.
Maybe.
Okay.
So that's part of what's been going on with the Meta project, you know, with Make WordPress.
That wasn't too scary. I also
I'm
really
not
like
scared
his,
about starting new.
So this is out.
I'm scared about what my existing site is.
Everyone lives. I got a spoiler alert. Let's also style it a little better. So we can make that bigger. Large fonts, maybe a different background color. Publish it, and now on the front ends, click to reveal. Ta-da! Movie reviews and spoiler alerts around the web.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
We've also seen the design aspects of Gutenberg started to be really taken advantage.
Spoiler alert block.
Other favorite ones I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Called the Caxton Shape Divider block. From
Shape Divider block?
Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So as you can see, what they're doing is sort of choosing different kind of shapes that can go in between the blocks.
Why do we want a shape divider block?
For design.
We got some waves in there.
Is it cool or is it weird?
One, which I really like.
It's cool.
It's
one page. Have a lot of
there's some Beaver Builder. There's some Beaver Builder things that do that as well. That's pretty nice.
Watch it all day. And so this shows, as you can see, creates this into beautiful transition.
Add texture to the page.
Actually,
it does look kind of cool.
Addresses one of my key worries when we started creating blocks was that everything people were creating with them looked, well, rather blocky.
Oh, look, WP Forms
the
is up
shapes,
there.
I think really helps. There are block collections being created everywhere you can expect, and these are plugins that include many different blocks.
Yeah, I did like
there's even
2 hours of
so
playing around with Gutenberg
This
2
is
days ago.
editorblocks.wp.com.
Live, it was fun.
A huge library.
Are you on 5.0 now, Jason?
About them.
Yeah.
Gutenbergcloud.org.
The majority of my
which
sites,
is also the same folks who have already ported Gutenberg to Drupal and are launching sites for clients live with Gutenberg and Drupal combined.
Wow.
Why do we care about Gutenberg using with Drupal?
I hope I pronounced that right. Created an amazing framework.
It's because you want to get more. You want more organizations using it.
It's actually
because
responsible
it's much
and behind,
like
it's kind of been used to create the vast majority of all the
made,
blocks I just showed you.
It's kind of amazing.
So let's do a quick round of applause for Ahmad for creating that. It's very impressive. There's been a few others like the Block Lab, the Lazy Blocks, which allow you to create blocks right from within WP admin. So it's kind of a visual builder for blocks. And on amazing sites like CSS Tricks, there are now Gutenberg and tutorials for blocks. So that's where we've been. For this next bit, I'd like to invite on, is Ginny nearby? We've got, this is a very real support message that came in, actually on WordPress.com.
Of course, WordPress.com.
There was different states you could be in where you get.
Come on, you can't talk about
Gutenberg or some not Gutenberg.
Cool.
You're going to read, it's actually in French, and you're going to read the French.
Oh, Jenny Beaumont, I love her.
Read the French.
I do the French?
Yeah.
You do the English?
Yeah, I'll do the English.
Let's go for it.
But you got, oh, you got a mic already.
Yeah,
we're
all mic'd up, ready to go. Ready?
Yes.
Je n'arrive pas à construire ma page, c'est trop difficile.
What does that mean?
I thought you were going to tell us.
That's what they're asking about Gutenberg.
Oh dear.
Right. Exactly.
I cannot make my page, it's too difficult. And then he goes on to say, je veux avoir un éditeur simple pour construire ma page. I want a simple editor to be able to build my page.
And then the support response was, do you remember, oh, there's one more.
Oh, that's all
do you remember what it looked like? Was it this with the plus signs that you could click to add content? So initially the support person thought that they were asking to go back to the old WYSIWYG because there's been so much in the community saying how the old one was simpler. And did it have the plus signs, like blocks of content? And the response was, oui.
Oui.
Thank you.
De rien.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I know, despite WordCamp Paris, I did not quite get my French down. This was so cool that actually this person new to WordPress was saying that this thing, which in some ways is much, much more difficult and has a lot more complexity, more buttons to click and things to do, was actually simpler than the WYSIWYG that it replaced for what they were
because it's easy for new
this is
people.
Exactly what we're trying to do.
Nobody's ever said it wasn't easy for new people.
Yeah. iPads are really easy for little kids.
Easier for new people.
That
like
bought them,
this
it was a little bit harder to figure out.
Yeah, because it's just like Medium. We know how to use Medium.
So again, thank you very much, Jenny. One of the other parts of democratization was that it's regardless of device used. So these are our current stats that show desktop being a bit more than mobile. But mobile is growing faster than almost everything else out there, and it will be
future-proofing.
So all
drink
5.0.
I like what Jeff was saying in the chat that 70% or 70 of the native blocks may just be embeddable content blocks.
And we test
like
iPads and Android tablets.
Like Embed, Twitter,
also
YouTube,
and through mobile apps. This is a more invisible part of WordPress, but I think one of our most important long-term investments. In the past month, there have been over 1.3 million posts published through the mobile apps and 3.1 million photos and videos uploaded. Also,
how did they know that? Because of WordPress.com?
The mobile apps are going to be getting Gutenberg.
Well, yeah, the whole thing runs through WordPress.com.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
This is everything that you just saw with this. Well, some of what you just
saw. Too bad you can't use the app without
navigate and manipulate blocks in the native app. Just like
you have to make your own in order to pull
that
off.
This also means that just like Gutenberg is open source and has been adapted for other CMSs and other use cases already, there will be fully open source implementations of parsing and manipulating Gutenberg.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Bridget
and Android.
I'm going to build an app to use WordPress.com.
Available to even be embedded in other apps.
You forgot who you're talking to. Wrong friend, Jason.
So review.
Of course you will.
WordPress exists.
It's just an API, Bridget.
Access to publishing. We had a fundamental core
blocks
problem, but I hope I demonstrated many parts of it that we might take for granted were too difficult to use. We started the Gutenberg project, and phase 1, I think, makes a strong progress into addressing them. We've created this new fundamental building block.
I wonder
the blocks
if
I just showed you, which are a mental model you can use right now for editing posts and pages. But really across all, we want to apply it across all of WordPress.
Yeah.
And we're going to be bringing all this to devices of the future.
It's just audio louder than ours.
Thank you to phase 1, and particularly highlight the work
yes, ours is louder than
be here. Young and Tammy, listen.
Okay.
Tammy, are you here?
Yeah, phase 1.
You're representing the entire team.
It looks good, especially for new people.
Yeah, I agree.
When Pressable does my does the rollout, I'll let it happen, and I feel pretty confident that Beaver Build will be fine. So
how does it feel to see all that stuff?
Yeah, I was
reading. It's been a long road here. 47 major releases and iterations of Gutenberg in the wild.
When people upgraded.
100%.
Right? This is not a finish line. This is almost a starting line for the next generation of WordPress. So we've
Outside
been
the
talking a bit
page.
about phase 2, and I'd like to re-explain some of the things that we have in mind for phase 2, since we're
Okay,
gonna
phase
start working
2.
on
We're getting the roadmap.
Here we go.
So the next challenge of WordPress is, now that we've made kind of the stuff inside the box easier, you still have these other things on your page.
Right.
If you were to look at an average website, this is your site. Phase 1 is all that stuff in that blue box there.
They're already trying to do what Beaver Builder did.
Post content
Right.
is one way to think about it.
Beaver Themer.
Phase 2 is
That's
the
what they
rest.
did with Beaver Themer, right? Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you a scary part of WordPress you might not have looked at in a while. Remember this screen?
The post options table?
It's still there.
Oh, that
This is
dashboard.
widgets.php. A little bit old school. This is what widgets plus Gutenberg could look like. The idea that you can bring every single block and actually manage your sidebar content areas with Gutenberg blocks. Anything you can put on the page, you can now put in sidebars. And because they're fully responsive, the interface adapts and the block should.
Like, not everyone's using sidebars.
This is what that could look like in the customizer.
But we make
the
text
contents
too wide,
converted
though.
widgets and elements in the blocks. We will
That's what's
convert
good
widgets
about the sidebar, guys, you know?
And this will now, we will eliminate one additional thing that people, when learning WordPress,
if the text is longer than like 600 pixels, it's too hard to scan.
Is someone saying, well, we won't need to do it because it will be done by next year. But I imagine people are starting to get support requests that say, hey, why can't I put this widget into my post? And why can't I put these cool blocks in my post into my widget areas? The other nice thing about bringing along widgets is it brings along really the past decade of WordPress themes that all already support widget content areas.
Oh, so Gutenberg right now doesn't support widgets?
Wow. Remember menus?
You can put widgets in.
We're going to need a little bit of experimentation.
It's just not a whole widget area.
A way of editing. Or that we could create a different interface where there's sort of a restricted number of blocks that you could then arrange into a different menu and perhaps even preview live on the front as you're doing so.
Maybe I'll use 2019.
Basically, a simple way to imagine this, and actually one of the full projects that will be going for 5.1.
Did you use it yet?
I'm using it on jasontucker.blog.
So that we call navigation.
It's pretty limiting to the things that I want to do with it.
Rename it
without like full-blown CSS changes to be able to make it change.
Like, oh yeah,
2019 phase 2.
Lunch, dinner,
customization, updating themes, widgets, menus.
So phase 1 is
early
done.
version of phase 2 will be in the plugin.
For writing in
reactivate the plugin.
Phase
oh my
2
gosh.
is thinking outside of post content. The focus of phase 2 is really about.
So you have to have WordPress 5.0 with the Gutenberg plugin still.
And if you want to test this out,
my understanding you didn't have to. We're going to, but I guess it overrides it.
If you want phase 2, you have to have the Gutenberg plugin still.
Like during phase 1.
Why?
So if you have upgraded to 5.0,
well, I'll tell you one thing.
Different plugin.
Without a lot of the plugins that use Gutenberg are looking to see if the Gutenberg plugin's actually enabled or not.
We've talked
because they updated their code enough to be able to do it. So maybe that's the reason why.
I have publicly promised
add active install
that I am going to reveal.
I bet they want that number, right?
3 and phases 4 could be right here in front of you all today.
Millions of active installs.
Any guesses? Just out of curiosity. Oh. What's that?
Oh my.
Emoji? Oh, that's all phases. So we've been looking a lot again at. I think if you ever never know where to go with software, it's always great to go back to users and listen to what they're doing, listen to what they're struggling with, and also to look in the ecosystem. What are people installing plugins for? What are
2020 collaboration, multi-user editing,
workflows. Really and a place we can start to explore using the new fundamental building blocks of Gutenberg and the developmental framework that allows is collaboration, multi-user editing, and workflows. These are 3 areas right now. I'll be actually 100% honest. One of the reasons the copy and paste from Gutenberg, from Google Docs to Gutenberg is so good is that when I'm writing a post that I'm going to get reviewed and collaborate on with a bunch of people, Google Docs is better for that.
Exactly.
But if we can integrate these workflows directly into WordPress, we can integrate with them then with user systems, we can integrate them with revision.
Gutenberg's going to become a SaaS piece of Google Docs?
The way that a SaaS service like a Google Docs can have
Beautiful.
So that's an idea.
Wow.
You might notice that this is listed as 2020. I should also clarify that phase 1 and phase Phases 1 and 2.
Don't worry, developers. It needs to be done before December.
Are not done.
Oh my God.
Everyone is not leaving the editor and moving away from the things inside of post content. There's a lot more work to do there. And in fact, the next sort of minor update.
So WordPress competing with Google doesn't make any sense.
We're going to keep
but Google collaborating with WordPress
now build some more things on top of
makes sense.
There's already been some demos.
You know, maybe it's that XWP Google connection.
For block locking, for collaboration. It's some really exciting stuff that block.
And that's what WordPress needs. I had this conversation in WordCamp Cincinnati with one of the automaticians working on Calypso back in October 2016.
To the entirety.
I said, that's what I want. If I
right
collaborate
now, really only
in the WordPress editor, that's what I would do.
Right. Phase 4 gets a little murkier, but
that's weird how that all works out. Huh?
I said that.
Isn't that weird? That's what I told him like 2 years ago.
So one thing I think it's important for us to address in WordPress is
right now there is a way to post from WordPress from Google Docs to WordPress.
This is something that
but the commenting that you do in Google Docs,
right?
WordCamp in Quebec,
the editing, the suggesting.
And I'm very excited. Now we can say we have an idea for when and how and where we're going to do.
My roommate fell asleep. That's how excited she is.
Basically pros all new features coming into WordPress.
Gets a new laptop and just falls asleep.
And all the effort on
that was exciting.
Now that it's open, I think
with Gutenberg open, let's expand core.
Subscribe into that can be projects with individual leaders and individual teams. These are a few of them. Don't worry about writing all this down.
Directory.
It will be a post on the
That'll be like the plugin directory.
Yeah, it is a plugin directory.
Now.
Yeah.
Tackle 6,500 open issues.
Be able to discuss it.
Now that it's out in the wild, let's deal with 1,000 open issues. I love you, Matt. I love you, Matt. I love how you buried that at the end. There's only 1,500 open issues. We could do that. We're going to do it on Contributor Day tomorrow.
Behind the closed captioning.
Finally,
put it at the bottom. Closed captioning, you'll hide it.
Issues.
I love you, Matt.
This is why they have the after party before the state of work.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Exactly. Because usually the after party is after the state of the work, and he shows up.
That is some of what's coming.
Oh my gosh. Minimum version of PHP. 7. Please say 7. Please say 7.
Asked about before, but
not 7.2.
Who would like us to raise our minimum?
Yes, please do it. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes.
Well, they're all excited about it.
Make core P2 post. There's an amazing post from Gary now proposing that we move to PHP 5.6.
We've been saying that for a long time.
By this time next year, have PHP 7 be the minimum version for building on top of WordPress.
Yes, it's already out of date, but we're doing it. It's now at 7.2. But that's good for WordPress. Yay!
That makes companies like Pressable happy, right?
8,000.
Right? Well, not just that, but it's faster, it's more secure.
Version number.
Yeah. I believe in backwards compatibility, but still, you know what I mean? Like, if WordPress is going to get over 31% breakthrough
version 4.0.
It
was.
I thought it was 50% mark. We have to be the most secure.
But actually, it came in one day.
With PHP, right?
Version 2.0 to 2.1. The second.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
There were over 173 million downloads.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. That's the best thing you said in this whole thing.
And we got up to 68%.
Yeah, the scary part is having to deal with the fact that
running the 4.9 branch.
Your code needs to be compatible with that particular version of PHP. So if you're plugins, then that gets messed up.
It was a hardy release.
That gets messed up too.
There's going to be a lot of wrapping. But see, that was what I was saying in my tweet earlier this year. Like, if you're going to break WordPress, break the
longer
PHP
period where we
at
weren't
the same
shipping
time.
Versions. We actually put some really cool things like widget update.
But they're going to do it a year apart. But still, like,
everyone's favorite.
Gutenberg is a breaking change. So just change your PHP version.
A very successful try Gutenberg call out, which was part
of if you're fixing your plugin to be compatible with Gutenberg, you might as well bump it up to 7.
To WordPress. The other exciting thing, and I don't know if you noticed this,
true.
Release WordPress 5.0.
No, 5.0, whatever.
Well, that's what it is. We've been talking about this for an hour.
This was
completely.
It's old news. It's an hour old.
It's an hour old in 2 days.
It was a little bit controversial putting it out on the 6th.
A little bit. It was a lot controversial.
That's all it was controversy.
The 2,000 people that care the most were on a plane, Matt. I love you, but come on.
Discussion about should we do it after this event? But like I said, the vast majority of the WordPress world.
Bless his heart.
Bless your collectively.
Well, typically that's the day Saint Nick comes.
But I'm also kind of curious because we had a number of plugins that were sort of telling people.
Oh, really?
Gift.
Upgrade.
So Santa Claus gave us Gutenberg.
Yeah.
2.3 million installs.
So we had a A/B test, and that
it's only 100,000 more installs
of WordPress was actually released on an identical December 6th in 2016. And so looking on the second day after the release, we had about 2.2 million installs of WordPress 4.7.
And you know why?
For WordPress 5.0, we already have 2.3 million
pushed
installs.
out point releases.
This is as of day 2.
That wasn't voluntary.
Continuing to grow. So,
yeah, true.
I love you, but
there are rightly some people who want to wait for future version of Gutenberg or want
5.0.1,
which is totally fine. They can delay the release. But we're seeing that the kind of early adoption numbers are very similar.
5.0.1
it's also worth noting that because it came out on Thursday, many of the hosts have not started. Many managed WordPress hosts.
Mark my words. 5.0.1. December 10th.
So this is, to my knowledge, for all the major WordPress hosts, just people clicking the button within a WordPress dashboard. So actually pretty cool. And the support loads and the feedbacks and the support forums and everything have been pretty smooth. I was even
that's because a bunch of hosts haven't done it.
Editor channel the other day, but the support loads they see for people
Savvy,
5.0
site,
are
ground, site district are all waiting.
Wow, there's people in the chat that are all kind of brutal about it. They're like, does anybody else believe those stats?
Because 5.0 deactivates.
I believe the stats because you know why?
We've had about 160
WordPress.com
testers of the Gutenberg plugin deactivated.
Everybody on WordPress.com is on 5.
Making this big a change, part of what we started.
How many sites are on WordPress.com?
Classic editor plugin.
How many sites are on the HostGators of the world?
Upgraded, actually, called the Classic.
And the people that automatically update for every point release.
2 years. They could install that, and then whenever they auto-updated or click the button to update to 5.0, they would keep the old editor. And nothing
required a little more prudence. So I don't know
the version number have some other ancillary benefits that have gone with 5.0. So we were hoping to remove.
I don't think it was Russian hackers.
Also, probably a good way to track
downloading it with the script.
We promote the classic editor and the upgrade, post-upgrade thing for 5.0. So pretty common for anyone who prefers the old editor, or integration, or a plugin, or technology, or anything that might work. You can see. And actually, since 5.0, we've seen.
How about some tutorials? That's interesting.
24,000.
Well, the training team is doing a better job at.
That was 2018, and
their site. We're writing some copy for them, actually.
Thank you. I would drop the mic, but it's on a thing.
I would drop the mic. You're funny, Matt.
Matt just needs to kids so those dad jokes actually work out.
No, those dad jokes are bad, and he's not getting that much applause. He's
the last take of the word.
Not be.
Highlight a few lessons that
nobody's throwing anything at him, though.
Entire cycle.
Well, because they wouldn't let you have.
First is that we need to.
No one wants to throw a Chromebook or a laptop, or something like that at them.
I don't think it makes sense to have. Entirely separate meetings and everything. Accessibility and privacy and all.
I'm surprised no one threw a beaver from Beaver Builder up there yet.
No way, those were too hard to get. Are you kidding me? I was like, I saw Robbie give me one away. I'm like, cool. What am I, chopped liver? He goes, I thought I gave him one. I'm like, no.
We still need to keep learning JavaScript.
That's the easiest way to say it. Just be like, I'm sorry, I thought I got you one already.
Hands a little bit earlier. People's ability to participate in this new generation
we still have to learn React
by JavaScript knowledge. I feel that is one of our biggest gating factors.
Gutenberg deeply.
I think that we need to continue to every single, probably even move to where we have more JavaScript talks at WordCamps than PHP talks.
Dude, we have a lot of JavaScript talks.
We can't have more JavaScript
getting more of the new generation of WordPress that are written about WordPress 5.0.
You still have to have PHP. That's the whole reason why we're using React.
So they can learn the syntax. And that is not that scary. And start to promote more tools.
We're using PHP because it's just what runs.
That's what makes a database.
But we learned the tough way the importance of triage and code freezes.
But all the front end stuff.
He just admitted he learned the importance of triage and what?
That was due to the best of intentions. We brought in, we merged some code.
Intention. That's an apology.
Fix an edge case.
Dude, it was all because of this exact thing happening right now is the reason why we pushed this thing out a couple days ago.
I know.
White screen editor from
But that was an apology, and I accept it.
This is the exact same issue that Apple had with all of their operating system updates. And that's why they do it once a year, and that's it.
We did.
It doesn't work out for people. People hate it.
I pointed out on one of the threads.
Yeah.
Here, a distance from 5.0 release.
But this is also why Androids come out every 15 minutes. There's a new Android that comes out,
which is exactly the average. You release.
So you can have like a little bit. You gotta be kind of be in the middle there somewhere.
But another mistake that I'll take extra personal responsibility for was we were scared to announce a new release date after we missed our previous one.
Right.
What?
And that created a lot of sort of.
Remember April 1?
Yeah.
It's
okay. WordCamp Europe.
It's okay to do that.
Signs that, you know, we did this release candidate.
Things aren't ready.
WordPress is coming out really, really soon.
Well, things will not be ready.
But we never talked.
I know, and we're an open source community, so we have volunteers doing
a normal release until we announce our new date.
It's literally everybody else doing it, so it's okay.
So I completely understand where the dates seem to come.
We need 100 times more testing. Yes, we do. We accept that apology.
One of the positive things we learned were that the betas were more tested than any other releases. We've talked about feature plugins and things like that.
You guys are super nice.
Not many people know this, but for betas and
we're super nice.
Are you kidding me? I've been so mean. I'm worried about getting fired from my. Well, the thing is that what we wanted was him to admit that this is what was happening and to apologize for us.
Yeah, like
open source is difficult to develop in public. Open source should not be difficult to develop in public. That's the whole point of it. It's open source.
Right.
Finally, open source
what's difficult to do in public is have a company.
We had a lot of struggles. Gutenberg happened entirely in the public eye. You can go back all the way to the
in open source, and that's the problem with
the arguments,
not having a Chinese wall between automatic and the WordPress
versions from a year ago and giving it 1 stars.
That's the conflict of interest.
You can see people using our review system on the plugin, Gutenberg coming into core, which is fine, but it's not necessarily reviewing the plugin. It's more sort of expressing what they thought the future WordPress would be. Perhaps we need a different medium or way for people to go to.
People are like, it's a place to put our voice.
That is, I think, just something we have to keep in mind as we move forward. A lot of people who've come up to me so far at this WordCamp have said, you know, 5.0 seemed like it was going to be terrible. And post-release, it's been pretty quiet. Or there seemed to be like this was one of the most controversial, most acrimonious release processes that we've had in a long time, maybe ever, if you're new to WordPress. Some of the old ones are pretty bad. But
Twitter's not the problem.
I blame Twitter partially.
No.
What? Everything on Twitter.
No, it's podcasts like mine.
It's not Twitter. Twitter is not the
I also
problem.
think that it was part of the
problem is he never was open about
warts and some of the debates and some of the sort of open source product. For a normal company, all this would happen behind the scenes or not at all.
You get to watch
company. Did you hear that?
I heard the word company.
In public.
Company, that's the problem. Conflict between automatic and a WordPress project.
So we just have to keep in mind that, well, in addition to trying to treat each other well and have good etiquette and really converse in a productive way for whatever we're doing, keep in mind that things might
mansplaining us
actually are. Because the conversations and things happening on Twitter or
we have to be polite?
Or else might not actually be representative of the basics or fundamentals or first principles of the software.
Did he just reprimand us?
He's only talking
I just wanted to show you all because I think it's pretty cool.
That's me.
This year, sites using SSL, WordPress sites using SSL actually crossed over the non-SSL sites.
Come on, Matt. That was not cool.
I'm very proud that we were one of the earliest supporters and
that was a sigh.
Of the Less Encrypt. I'm proud of that's
congratulations on SSL. Okay.
Low cost or free SSLs.
Buried the lead. Now we're talking about SSL.
We've had, the 20% increase. That's an absolute increase. So that's going from around like a 30.
What's our market share? Get to our market share.
1 year, and it looks like it's continuing. So we are seeing the possibility that when you get the right technology in the hands of people for a low cost, it can actually really change something fundamental about the web, which I find kind of beautiful.
145 WordCamp.
That is kind of the WordPress updates for a little while. Now, I'm going to briefly go through some of the community stuff because the community is, of course, part of what makes WordPress so exciting.
The community is the only thing that makes WordPress.
We've been growing every year. We've had about 145 WordCamps in 48 countries.
The community is the only thing that makes WordPress.
45,000 tickets sold. And one of the
Come
things
on, Matt.
I'm echoing my thoughts into the chat.
Organized
yeah, but that's good because I can't chat. I can only talk on my Zoom app.
2,600 speakers and also an exciting 1,100.
687 meetup groups. That's great.
Cool, but of course we know meetups are bigger. These are typically the monthly get-togethers that WordPress folks will organize, and sometimes there's even a few in a given town. We're now up to over 350,000 members of the meetup group, which is a 50% year-over-year growth. That is wild.
I think that year-over-year growth is because the 4.8
meetup groups all around the world.
Update that had the events.
That's a lot of different cities. That's a lot of different neighborhoods of cities.
Everything being announced in the dashboard, you mean?
On the foundation side, we were able to do 12 events,
50% increase is
tripling
amazing.
the amount that we did last year of the do action. So these are where WordPress and other folks come together to support charitable organizations by creating amazing WordPress website that is totally free. Yeah. And as we talked about earlier, is something that can grow with them and doesn't lock them into anything. They were as far ranged from McAllen, Texas, which notice doesn't really have like a airport code or anything. So Bristol, Stuttgart, Germany, Beirut, Montreal, Port Harcourt. Where's NGA?
Nigeria.
Oh, that's really cool.
Come on,
we had a number of open source workshops. So these
to work at a travel agency for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Open source, often starting
Just
from
be careful because that's a place he hasn't been, obviously.
In Ghana, India, St. Lucia, and
we might have WordCamp US there.
And this year,
Nigeria,
we're having it in St. Louis.
Girl Development and Black Girls Code.
Girl Development. Development.
But 10 grand?
That's really small. 10 grand is nothing.
I mean, one person to work there full time is making 50 grand. That's a fifth of what
we should have given a lot more than that. Come on. There's WordCamps that have surpluses. What happens to that surplus?
You can donate to the WordPress Foundation, and there's a little straight button and everything for it. Since last
donate
year,
to the WordPress. Is he really pitching or donate? So we all give our time.
That is total for
He's talking to the people who all give their time.
So let's give a round of applause to the 85 donors.
85 donors. Oh my God.
Thank you. We are working on updates that will actually highlight the donors on the website. And
WordPressFoundation.org.
From WordPress, and would like to support organizations and events.
They should be using Give.
Please consider
Aren't all
going
sponsors
in, perhaps becoming a recurring donor on WordPress
Foundation. We are. We're donating our time. We should be getting.
No, I think
WordPress.org, by the way.
Yeah,
they are.
We finally
but they're donating to a thing that just
and we're able to ship a number of really great
a party every year, which is
but they split off the foundation from the WordCamp
page.
Those are separate now.
It's beautiful /
the foundation is
actually allows
like the food
I get fired from the job I don't have.
I know, right?
I am very, very proud of all the teams that worked on this.
I wrote, wow, 10K. How much is a WordCamp US? I roll.
Yeah, we've got the Help Hub launched on support. That's a project.
It's got to be at least 5. Oh, Help Hub. That took them 3 years to get Help Hub.
As we improve, WordPress.org is kind of like.
Wow, really?
Now he's talking about WordPress.org. Make WordPress.
And so any improvemements we go there, I think, have great effects down the road of both making.
Yeah, the marketing team's willing to help, Matt.
Easier for new folks to get involved. Because remember, the vast majority will not come to WordCamps or even ever see this. We haven't done this before.
Did he say nobody's going to watch this video?
That's what he's counting on.
That goes through everything.
Like what? Don't say that, Matt.
Dude, not only are we watching it, but we're rewatching it right now, and we're putting it on YouTube.
My email is gizzy@gmail.com. I will help you with your PR. Please never say that again. Love Bridget.
A little band from Houston, Texas.
I love you. You need some help with that.
Like, for 6 years, Steve used to say that no one watched Watercooler, and then I showed him the stats, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
5 million people.
Which, right now there's 407 people watching live on YouTube.
Right now, this?
But we can,
like this at the bottom, it's 404 people right down here.
We've got the JavaScript. We've got
404 people, 404 audience.
Not us, but watching
the complex.
Watching it.
We've got the plugin.
Oh, I think it's funny.
Notice on the plugins page now, we've actually put
well, that's $3.99. It's declining
above the featured plugin.
Okay.
So we're really going all in on getting everything Gutenberg enabled, capitalizing on the work thus far, and starting with all haste and urgency to get to the point where you can really control.
If he were to move just slightly, it would look like he had wings.
But we need to tighten up everything.
Oh yeah, they should have.
It's an Instagram wall.
Engineering management.
It's that Gutenberg background. You're right. Yeah, they should have centered it more. 6,500
issues. I do understand that open issues.
The camera's probably what's the problem.
Project
camera's probably placed off center.
I don't think it'd be bad if we really went through and were able to triage them all. At least know that each one had been touched, and we know like whether it's a real.
Is he really talking about those 6,500 tickets for tomorrow?
I'd rather that be explicit than something that just kind of inferred by the abandonment or no responses on the ticket. So when you get home, or if you're listening to this online or whatever, play this song. It's pretty catchy, makes you wiggle and dance a little bit. And as you go to contribute, and as we build what is coming next, the next 15 years of WordPress, maybe try to bring that attitude and jiggle and wiggle to WordPress. And that is
jiggle and wiggle.
Let's bring a jiggle and wiggle to WordPress.
I would like to thank.
Are you serious? Hashtag jiggle and wiggle. I think jiggling and wiggling is against the code of conduct.
Well, we sure see plenty of it, despite that.
I'm trying to wear a good bra so I don't jiggle.
That was rough.
This was the smoothest
oh my God.
WordCamp US I've ever been to. Like it, great. Man. Music, food, everything. And that's partly put together by over 200 volunteers.
200 volunteers. That is a lot of people. I'm really glad that Orange County didn't win. Good job, St. Louis.
And thus,
you guys do the work.
The state of the word. So thank you very much.
Okay, question and answer time. This is where it gets juicy.
Who goes first?
You do, Jason. Go.
It was a two-way conversation.
Hey, Matt.
Got a little Q&A.
Oh, now he's saying you could tweet to him at Photomat.
Or you can tweet me.
Twitter was the big problem, but you could go ahead and tweet to him.
For questions.
Is it only for 15 minutes or what?
No, he's going to do the Q&A. It's usually about a half hour. What time is it?
Also a good opportunity for me to just show how amazed and proud I am.
Wait, he doesn't want people to stand up and ask him questions?
No, I'm just saying. He said you could tweet to him. But I thought it was funny considering earlier it was like, oh, a big problem with on Twitter. Let's be nice to each other.
Turned it out as a little controversial, but we did it. And now we're on the other side of it and we can talk about what's next.
Oh, we did it. We're on the other side.
We've got some mics up here on the left and right.
So I don't think we're totally on the other side yet.
We're not on the other side.
None
of us
have had time to log in yet.
Why don't you say your name, where you're from?
Are we doing the drinking game or no?
Okay.
Your name, where you're from, and then
I only have water.
Hey, my name is John Paris. I'm from here in the U.S., South Carolina.
John Paris from South Carolina.
All right. How's this? Ooh, there we go. So my name is John Paris. I'm from here in South Carolina, U.S. First off, I wanted to thank you for pushing this to happen and putting significant financial resources behind it, because I know that's been pretty huge. I was wondering, though, if you could speak to
somebody said bring up popcorn.
Themes, how this all may affect themes as phase 2 is completed. Themes.
I love Joseph.
Yeah, because historically, the 20 themes have been relatively simple, but there's a lot of themes in the ecosystem that do a lot more. And it seems like with phase 2 and beyond that, the way things are registered and managed are going to change to some degree, and how you think that may affect themes going forward.
Good question. Thank you very much.
More about the styles of the themes for the blocks that are being made.
Change.
That's my question.
And I think themes will be the show.
But basically, close your theme shop.
There's no reason why.
Why do you think iThemes got bought out? Why do you think Studio Press got bought out?
Version where
they don't have the manpower to remake those themes to support them.
We're going to need admin support.
We haven't talked about what's really awesome. That is a really nice suit, and he looks amazing.
So what we're going to create in phase 2 is
I'm serious. Like, I need to style it.
Because really all a header and
It's
footer
completely tailored.
Kind of like reusable content.
You know, WordPress is growing up. That's a tailored suit.
Here's
That's
some
a
sort of
very
CSS
expensive
layout that shows
Matt, who
where
are you wearing? Just want to know, who are you wearing?
I know. Now I wish I
Um,
could stay inside.
Somebody out in the audience needs to ask that, preferably a lady.
Oh my God.
Make it
Somebody
happen.
does need to ask, what suit is he wearing? Because he looks amazing. I mean, if we're doing Academy Awards style commentary, we should have asked his designer. I bet it's Armani.
Experience going from
all right, I put it in the chat.
Into the front end.
And I want to know what the hexadecimal color is of his shirt. I mean, seriously, he is single, and you know, I could help him out.
It can be totally customizable. You can change the layout.
I'll marry him for his health insurance. I'm sure Automatic is a good plan.
Ovid, clapped for me.
Themes in the future.
What?
You might see that start to shift.
Oh, yeah, I'm serious. Dear Matt, the marketing team rep wants to marry you for your suit and your health insurance, and I'll help you for free with these pots.
Really kind of
Why is he talking about Mexican restaurants?
So here's some starter content that you can modify. It's like you are a Mexican restaurant. Here's a starter.
Listen, damn.
Color scheme.
Somebody told you what's up.
Typically,
that's why WPblab is the best show on the internet.
That kind of a business or person or anything like that. And I think that's where we're going to start to see a lot more of the kind of mass, tens of thousands of different things. And I think it's also interesting to start to think about how we could even expose and share those on WordPress.org. So keep an eye out for that.
I think we need better. I think we need those themes in WordPress.org to start. That's where we need to start getting those compatible. That's going to be a lot of work for the theme review team.
What themes are going to do next?
Oh, Nick Adams from WPbuff. Hi, Nick. I'm ahead of you guys.
Right, let's go over here.
All right. Hi, Matt. I'm Nick Adams from WP Buffs. Had a question about the just the transparency and the release of 5.0. There was some concern about the fact that 12 of the last 11 posts on WordPress.org/blog all came from automatic employees. And there was just some concern, it seemed, of the transparency of how conversations around the release were made. So I was just wondering about like what lessons have been learned.
I love you, Nick. I love you so hard right now.
Contribute as well about how we communicate.
That's it.
Going forward with 5.1.
I'm going to ask Nick to marry me. I think he's already married, though.
Sure. Now, Automatic does have, Automatic tries to follow Fire for the Future. It's now a company of over 830 folks.
Ooh, 830. That's a big company.
About 40 plus full-time people working on WordPress core. It's working on WordCamps. It's working on a lot of things. So being one of the larger companies, it does appear to have
as we heard from J-Trip, that makes a village.
On that we did differently this release that we've never done before is we had actually a pretty wide team of release leads.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the exact percentage.
All right, I asked Matt on Twitter, who's he wearing? We'll see what happens.
5.0 release leads that didn't.
Yeah, it's a really nice suit. I mean, I'm being fair.
Total release leads and prior releases.
I'm being fair too, because
and he's right. Most release leads are from Automatic.
I think everyone, regardless of what company they happen to work for, tries to bring to the release process or the WordPress decision-making process really is gathering as much information as possible. And that might be objective data. I think we
also, it takes a lot of time to volunteer to be a release lead.
Review of Gutenberg.
And not everybody has time for that,
We read Twitter. We read the blog post. We read post status. We read WP Tavern. We read the comments on YouTube.
The world exists outside of Twitter,
that they say you shouldn't do.
I could go days without looking at Twitter.
I can't because it's my job, but I think he's blaming Twitter pretty hard right now, and I think that
it's a political thing. I don't like people using Twitter as the political thing. Like that's not.
Twitter is not the bad thing, but
balance that.
Here's the thing, Jason. Anytime your audience is talking to you, that's valuable. You want them to keep talking.
Yoast has contributors in this
as long as you're responding.
Impressive. I think Bluehost.
I mean, if you can read what people are saying, then you have the information. If they leave Twitter and start doing DMs on Slack, then you have no idea what
because they're spending a lot more hours and weeks than perhaps someone who's not working full time. They're going to appear to be right there.
Yeah, I don't like when support companies will say we'll direct message you, and it's like, and that is why? What's the difference here?
I think it's great.
They don't want it public.
When we talk about
but somebody would end up getting value out of the fact that they answer publicly.
It's a very small percentage of the company that's even there.
Stupid.
And
just making your job harder, because now people are going to be asking the same questions 5,000 times over.
They're often bringing a worldview and a set of experience.
So now he's politicizing about anybody working for a certain company. It's kind of interesting because right now there's a movement on the community side to give credit to companies with the Five for the Future movement, who are allowing employees like Yoast or Give or whoever who support their employees, XWP, Google, Automatic, to get credit for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Ooh, Fred Meyer from WP Shouts next question.
Right? Little movement right over here.
Hey, Matt. So I'm Fred Meyer from WP Shout. And first I want to say thank you for your personal role in helping move Gutenberg ahead. And I know, I mean, it can't have been especially easy to get it out the door, and I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to see it exist.
Okay, enough with the compliment sandwich.
That in like the 2, 3, and 4 steps you mentioned, there's very little about making layout more robust in Gutenberg. So there's columns, but you can't do anything like margins or padding, or you can't specify
columns that were cool.
Different devices.
Columns are cool. You can't do padding in Gutenberg.
Ran itself around blocks.
Said you named your color code, Bridget.
50 or 60% of what makes a layout.
What?
Are going to be handled.
Got you your color code.
Which in general, I kind of like. It's going to kind of.
It's
there's a million different ways that
FFC, he believes.
So
I
really
freaking love Twitter. That's why I love Twitter. And the people in our chat.
Define a layout language for WordPress. That's a lot more.
How do you move Gutenberg to the front end?
I'm also curious kind of how you move Gutenberg onto the front end in a way that has your participation, because once again, that's something that the marketplace is going to do. And I think right now is really an opportunity to make that as standard as it can be. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm curious your thoughts on that, because I didn't see it in the 2, 3, or 4 priorities that you mentioned.
Thank you very much.
That's a polite question, Fred.
That's important that we get right. I'm not so worried that I think we shouldn't start. I think that it's something that we're going to start to develop.
People on Twitter are going like, all right, Morten, it's time for you to get up, find a microphone and start talking.
Adopt and cherry pick the rest of it.
Well, I missed his talk, but he had Leo, Rachel Cherry, and Sisal get up there.
Oh my God.
That's the most awesome thing ever.
Yeah, I kind of missed that because I was in a meeting with a potential client. So, but anyway, there's a governance call.
That was the coolest damn thing.
In future,
there's a call for governance, and Yoast mentioned it also because Amy Hall told me.
Be pretty exciting.
Right,
and that's a real issue, you know. I run into some blockades when in the marketing team, and it's frustrating. So it would be nice also for us to be more represented
have been posted to make that
with other organizations like World Hosting Days. You know,
so
why aren't we at World Hosting Days?
We did post on the PHP versions. We did post on
the cPanel conference.
Sort of
why aren't we at those big ICANN conferences?
The reason is that we want them to be a starting point for discussion. We want that discussion to have where WordPress development always happens. So we can also be.
I love Joseph Dixon.
There's 2,000 people here. They're like,
thank you, Joseph.
Dropping on that thread would be a fantastic place.
Amy just showed me the tweet, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Tokyo, Japan. These were the same people who asked questions last year.
My name is Toru Miki.
We got another one from Allison. And me.
WordCamp US.
Where did you say you're from?
Tokyo.
Tokyo, cool.
Yeah. So my question might already be covered a little bit already, but if I may, I would like to read the question I've got here. So I gave a talk yesterday reflecting on contribution to WordPress from a contributor's point of view after teaching university art students what is and how and what it means to online self-publish. And at the end of talk yesterday, I presented one perspective on the mission of the WordPress, democratized publishing. And my question kind of jumps up from
What is your question? Get to the question.
So 15 years ago, and maybe even 13 years ago.
Oh, we don't want to hear your life story. Come on. This is too long.
Mission democratized publishing
They need a bouncer.
It was very vague meaning.
Yeah.
And at least in Japanese, we had a difficult time trying to translate that just to words. But that was okay, I felt, because we had no other options. I think the WordPress was only kind of software that was
maybe Morton's in the restroom and they're just kind of
contributing
waiting
to
for
Oh my gosh.
He wasn't allowed to have other people on stage.
But at the end of 2018,
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Ways to publish online, different tools, whether you like or not, the proprietary stuff.
Okay, what is the question? This guy is killing me right now.
And
I'm really surprised there isn't somebody saying,
even how
what is the question?
Our life is a web. So my first part of the question is that I would like to hear an update, or perhaps now in a little bit more details, on your thought, vision, and definition of democratized publishing. Because our surrounding environment had changed so much since the first time they came out. And the second part of that is that I presented one perspective or the meaning of that democratized publishing yesterday. And I think everyone here has their own thought and their own meaning and their own perspective of things, which may be...
All right, Bridget, just put your feet up on the bed.
Sure if anyone's
just chill out.
My feet up are on the bed. What are you talking about? I'm in bed watching this.
Maybe not quite the same.
You're not stuck like somebody else.
But
no, I know. I said, you know what, Amy? Let's watch it in our hotel room. She's like, I'm down with that.
Did you get room service?
No, we didn't get room service. But we're going to go down to the bar. I'm going to have an old-fashioned some macaroni and cheese. As soon as this guy from Tokyo finishes his question, I can't take who. You know what? I've decided we need a filtered question.
Questions. Let me try to.
It needs to be literally a question, not your life story, not thinking that. It's too laborious. It should be on a card. And then the person just reads the question.
There's probably more expansive definition.
No, you should turn them in to a card, and then Automatisha goes up there and says,
"There's some people saying things about it."
It's something that we can work on.
This guy was like, "That's a lot of rambling for a question."
We will break
it. It's too long. It wasn't a question. I gave.
Guys, he's trying to get his 20 seconds.
Look, maybe Morton's finally getting out of the restroom. I'm just saying.
Oh, you mean it was a stall tactic because Morton was in a stall?
To be a more open place.
Get it? The pun. Stall tactic.
Also, if you disagree with that mission,
there's like 361 people watching right now.
That was my dad joke. Oh, it went down from the 404.
There's a great
sure
post
did.
On the importance of forking in open source. In terms
forking? Why is he talking about forking?
More places you can post now. There were a lot of places, even when WordPress started, there was...
Because J-Trip wants to make a thing that he has to include WordPress into.
Well, J-Trip did make a thing.
Yeah, I know. He's like...
And I don't know what... I didn't get a chance to talk to John really that much. And
there are all these different...
But it is a fork. I don't understand why he thinks it's not a fork.
More open and more flexible.
Yeah.
And at the time,
or technically he started from scratch, so therefore it's not a fork.
Really, the mistake of the past decade is we didn't do the work to create Gutenberg until 2 years ago. We didn't start it because every time we started, it got really controversial, or we get mired in technical details, or it was just too acrimonious.
Did he say
acrimonious?
Or something.
It came too technical. Tentacle is like Elvis Plusky is tentacle.
Yeah,
so some of the specialized services have better interfaces, particularly for the user.
Elvis Plusky, baby.
Twitter used to be called.
I just filter all the words I don't know.
Right?
He's talking about Twitter again?
Elements of publishing.
I seriously have to go to the bathroom. Let's talk about Morton in the restroom.
And
hitting my bladder.
Most of these services on a WordPress.
Tell your roommate to hop on.
They weren't talk to her for a little bit. Enough on the user experience. I think we're actually now.
Amy, you've got to stand in for me. You're doing commentary. I have to go to the bathroom.
And because of the WordPress.
Hey, Amy, welcome to the show.
Blocks and everything.
Hey, Amy.
Hello. Good.
Are you a first-time caller?
This, I think,
live on the internet.
Am I a first-time caller?
And whether we do so or not, though.
What color do you think Matt's shirt is?
Experiences be great.
Blue.
Sorry, another question, but
I'm gonna bounce to the next question just so we can.
I don't know HTML colors, so just blue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your recent MacBook win. That's amazing.
That's freaking awesome.
To give you a homework.
It is.
To
if it's a new one, though, be careful. They break a lot. Mine's in the shop
this
again.
answer.
No.
And publish it in your either on your personal blog or
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Jason.
Somewhere or another.
They're giving them homework.
For the reason it can be translated accurately to people around the world because it's only 50% of WordPress locales is in English.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You just kind of cut that guy off.
Happy to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, you sure did. That was interesting.
You guys, the mic is silent. People can't hear it.
That guy just went on and on and on.
Although I identify as
Sure
a Central
did.
American.
That was like 3 Morton questions that could have happened. But
And one of the things I've taken away from this.
Okay, here's Bridget.
From speaking with previous WordCamp Europe
I hear bits in your hair.
is the idea of embracing neighborhoods and not discouraging where an event like WordCamp Europe can be hosted. And so I suppose my question is,
there's like people that are at watch parties and stuff now.
Where WordCamp.
Ooh, now he's asking a question about WordCamp North America.
Where other regions around here, which obviously you want
It's supposed to be North America,
discourages a large area and base like Canada from hosting what would be a landmark event on this side of the world.
Oh, now he asked how many Canadians are here.
Yeah, so why isn't it called like WordCamp North America? Yeah. But we'll probably do it at some point. How many Canadians do we have here, by the way?
I'll go to Canada. Let's do this.
Canadians.
Right? Do it in Montreal. I'm sure Carl Alexander wants to organize that.
Just call it, WordCamp 15 and it's all good.
The idea was to have at least one sort of major keystone event per year. Where I put on a suit, present the sort of things we can kind of towards the end of the year where we can kind of reflect on where we've been. And where
Jason and Jen, this is the best idea ever.
Anything,
even if just our moms watch
even if no one else watches it.
Yeah. Moving it around so it wasn't in the same place.
That's it.
It's like the Mystery Science Theater 2000 version of the State of the
I
Word.
would be happy to have a WordCamp US in Montreal or Vancouver or other cities. And I believe
in Montreal.
We're
going to have WordCamp US in Montreal and French Canada.
So those
it
are
depends
still,
on where Matt's
we'll still call them WordCamp US.
Right.
So I'd love for our first
do you serve barbecue? Okay, then we can do it.
Unit.
They're going to make barbecue either way. Actually, today.
Keep organizing.
Oh, Birgit!
Next year for,
Birgit from Germany.
I guess
She's
that would
our
be
new marketing person for Germany, the German team.
Hey,
thank you.
You're watching ahead.
Sorry.
You time traveler.
Just have to tell you guys that barbecue in the Netherlands is amazing.
WordPress can expand.
It can be done anywhere.
People.
Ooh, she's talking about Heather Burns in the privacy core term.
Contributions
team
to
and accessibility.
By business. For instance, like Heather Burns for creating more awareness about privacy, or people who are creating more accessibility. So Automatic is sponsoring or pledging for the WP Campus accessibility audit. But what can we do as WordPress community or the WordPress Foundation to set more funds to support such people who are not covered by companies?
It's a good question. And definitely something we consider.
We only have 800 employees.
Right now, the WordPress Foundation has 0 employees. So you can actually all the filings are online. You can see.
I apply.
You apply to be employed. Oh, well, part of the nice thing about having 0 employees is that as soon as you have 1 employee, you need HR. You also need health insurance. Like it starts to actually create a lot more overhead. And the more importantly, I feel like you need like a good management structure. That people are getting the proper feedback, that they're growing, that they're contributing in a way. You kind of need that oversight that happens. One of the great donations that companies do when they devote people to work full time is they also provide all that for those people, including the management and oversights. And I actually think it's not a bad.
So that's why it's a community thing, not an automatic thing.
Companies trying to hire people to contribute full time to WordPress. It maybe is not a bad hurdle that if you can't get hired by any of them, maybe you're working on something that isn't a good fit.
If
there is a specific area,
that was pretty direct. Just say that.
I talk to all the companies that are trying to hire lots of WordPress contributors, and they're often asking me, what do we need more of? And so lately that's been like more JavaScript.
Just because I'm not sponsored by a company doesn't mean that the work I'm doing on the marketing team doesn't matter.
We're a little bit weaker in terms of contributors. And happy to start to put the bug in the ear for other types of things in the future, actually, as you already have done just by asking the question. So thank you.
You just put a bug in his ear.
I'm sorry.
Good job.
Hey, Matt.
That was terrible.
You mentioned before
He did talk about
that people were using one
private.
story.
Wow.
How many bugs do you think he has in his
for
ear?
the future of WordPress? And you said that perhaps there was
I
a
don't
better
know.
avenue or channel that we could develop for that. I'm curious about your ideas.
Wow.
Whew, that's a tough
Yeah.
one.
So if you don't
Like, I
know,
don't know.
like the whole
We also had, on the 5.0
story about the
release
privacy
target
core
release
team not
statement,
feeling like
people
a
were
legitimate
busy
team,
threads ever.
and
They were
Rion
fine,
Retbill
and other
quitting,
members.
leading the accessibility team this year, then
Like pure voting.
you don't understand
would be
how
weird,
much of a
right? Because it's not really necessarily
brush off that answer was, and kind of an insult that if you can't financially afford to volunteer,
sort of way.
then maybe you're not good at those
Maybe
skill
we can
sets.
create some Buddy Press or WordPress.
Maybe you're not good enough to be hired.
We've had ideas for
That was really insulting.
like a vetch section of WordPress.org where people can just complain. Like maybe there's like a version 2 or version 3 of some of those where we can have capture more of that, almost like petitions for various
We're down to
things that we want to do or
359.
prioritize. So, but it doesn't exist yet. If you're excited and working on that, I'm happy to put some experiments up on
maybe they. Oh wow!
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Wow, that question. That was
to the
Martin came out of the bathroom.
Morton from
Woohoo!
Martin has stepped into the room.
Stay a little closer to the mic.
Right. Sorry. I wanted to talk to you about the use of the word we.
Ooh, the use of the word we. I love you, Martin. I wish you weren't married.
You got 45 minutes. Go.
We never talked about the release dates until we were absolutely sure. And previously, you used the word we to refer to the people in this room. And then you used we to refer to all the people that use WordPress. And then sometimes you use we to refer to something that sounds an awfully lot like Matt Mullenweg. This is actually more of a question of leadership than it is about we. It's framed within how we use the term we. So just to give you all some context, in all the make blogs, there's this common consensus that if like the accessibility team or the themes team or any of the other teams post something, they post it under the moniker we because it's something that comes from the team. Right. Now, in the post that came out about the release of 5.0, it said, we have decided to release da-da-da.
Who's the
and
we?
if you read the comments, there was a bunch of people who said, who is we? Where was this decision made? Where's the insight into all this and what's happening here? I think the community needs to have a better understanding of what leadership looks like in WordPress currently.
I love you, Martin.
What vision is for leadership moving forward. But we also need some clarity in language because this language that's being used is awfully confusing the way it is. So specifically, I actually want to know who we is who made the decision for this release. Not because I necessarily disagree with it, but because I don't know and no one knows because who was there, what decision was made, how did that happen, in what forum was this, where can we look at it? And secondly, I would like to hear your thoughts about who this we leadership group is and how that works, because we make decisions about the next leaders. We make decisions about.
I love that.
Oh, dude, we're about to get a mutiny. It's gonna be rad.
Gutenberg. Who is we?
Good question. I mean, we is contextual, right?
That's the whole point.
You can look at the context of where it's being talked about to ascertain what it was. Sometimes we might have not have done that as well. So to answer specifically your question, the we that I meant when I said we've decided on this release date was the 5.0 release leads. And
which is him.
Was a channel where we were debating and talking about it. And I also said an I in there as well, where I said I take responsibility for it because it was rough. And so I'll take personal responsibility and say me or I for holding off on announcing a new date. And then finally, my name was on the post for the date that was announced.
That's responsible.
But I don't just go in a cave and come up with these things.
That's why you had those office hours.
Tried.
Yeah.
How am I using we here? The we is
Exactly,
everyone who showed up to like the dev chats tried to have conversations about this. And it turned out to be really, really difficult.
And it's totally true.
To
He
have
was in
a conversation.
in all of the channels talking to
we,
people.
WordPress, default to being very, very open, where anyone can contribute to any of our threads, any of our
thought that was impressive.
any of our weekly meetings.
I agree.
Anything like that. One of the challenges was a lot of people were showing up who had never contributed to WordPress before, and were kind of crowding out the kind of core team's discussion and debate about where the release date came, whether the software was ready, or what bugs were urgent, or things like that. So you're completely correct that I would say the changing context of we is one of the biggest challenges.
Don't start
that we
getting
have.
mad at people
And both
showing up
being
that
kind
are
of
new.
radically open.
Right.
where
You
anyone
tell
is
them
allowed
to
to
show up,
participate.
and they're like, well, they're showing up,
Outside
and
of
they're
the
making
5.0
too much
release
noise, and the
leads,
people
which
who are
are now
working can't
chosen.
deal with it. That's why you don't
but
get
it's
new
also part of
contributors.
why
Let's do contributor day tomorrow.
just for the 5.0 release leads.
But
Come
no
on,
one new
Matt.
show up
We can have a
unless you know how to use
conversation
PHP.
That was, by the way, every bit as feisty as the public one
And React.
among people who were part of the group. Meaning there
You
wasn't.
started well and then ended up
Could you
insulting
imagine at your
people.
company if like just sometimes you were like deciding something and then random people would come in and like talk for 5 minutes, or like it's a very difficult way to develop things.
It's not random people, it's the community.
Open source is amazing.
I bet Morton knows the
Hard to
hex
develop
code
them.
color of that shirt.
I'm okay with this trade-off.
Yeah, he probably has like,
Sometimes
you know, like
we
how people have
to doing things in the
perfect
open
pitch.
or debating them on
I'm sure there's
Slack
people
and
have perfect eye.
and things like that. But
Sure.
ultimately,
Well, and it needs to be someone in person
And that
there
decision
because every
will not
screen is going to
reflect
show the
or
different
be
color.
agreed
That's
with.
true.
On my
See, it's not really
phone,
accessibility.
But
It's
as
very
much as
different on my
possible, we
phone
should
than it is
have
on
those
either of
people
my laptop
heard
screens
and
or my
they
iPad.
had an input into it.
Oh,
if
Matt, please
it's
stop
not
talking. You're making
and
it
things
so
that
much
we can
worse.
always continually improve on is helping people feel like they were heard and understood in it.
But you just told them they were
I
annoyed.
think that I did a lot of
Lord
work
Jesus.
weeks
You
leading
guys
up
stop
to the
talking now.
5.0 release, trying to listen and hear and understand as many people as possible.
You want to take
Those were
back that
definitely
proposal,
inputs,
Bridget?
that
Yeah,
led to
proposal's withdrawn.
when the software's ready. And it
He
is
needs an Abigail Adams so
how many bugs are
hard
open?
to
What's the
edit his
severity of them?
speeches.
Does anyone really care about responsive images?
He started well, then
That was
he
just
ended up
weird.
insulting everybody who participates
So that
in
but
Make
feel
WordPress.
free, to ask, I didn't actually see the comments that asked who the we were in the P2 thread. I did respond to like 2 dozen
It's not
other.
the P2. We call it
but I
the
missed
blog.
most of
Stop
those.
calling it P2.
But you can always ask, and happy to clarify. And if English is not your first language as well, I completely understand where
What?
it's confusing as you go through.
If English isn't your
Thank
first
you.
language, are we really insulting
Sure.
You
other?
do realize what you're describing is a governance structure designed without governance.
Yes!
Did he just insult Morton with that comment?
Yeah, if English isn't your first language, are you for real?
Hi, Matt. My name's Andrew Taylor. I'm from Portland, Oregon.
I love Andrew Taylor.
And
What
I know
was
release
Morton's
date is
response? He
big
said
for a
something
lot of
back.
folks, but
I don't
you
know. I'm gonna have to
mentioned
read the subtitles.
longest release almost by like one day between releases.
Between major versions, yeah.
Between major versions.
Yeah, we want to know if it's our
Decided
money.
Kind of release to it every 2 weeks. So I was wondering, you mentioned also that
Whose studio are you wearing? Is it our money?
kind of infer that this date was coming. Can you be more direct about release cadence? I know there's, but when can we expect that? And can we expect another 2-year gap, or is the going to be later in the future?
Good question.
Wow.
Let me tell you about
How many people are plants, do you think, today?
because this is what I think about.
None of these sound like plants.
You're not thinking about
This
what's
isn't like work at
You're
WordCamp
essentially
Europe,
choosing
yeah,
a
because
channel.
they're rambling too
Like,
much.
give me the code that's super baked
Like, please,
and stable.
somebody with an awesome question,
let
get
me
up and
be a
ask.
little riskier.
Yeah, nobody's asking if
And then
automatic's getting
for
bought by
folks
Google.
actually involved in development, like,
Yeah.
let me run today's version of the code. That's probably been tested by
Or
only a
Adobe,
handful of
or
people.
who are the big sponsors
This
there?
is very similar to like,
XWP, which is Google.
XWP is what I think.
far more people than WordPress that
And who
follow
else?
this kind of thing.
And they're talking about
XWP is part of.
Minor releases to WordPress.
They're talking about
we
making,
are hoping to get out a
the
kind
Google
of
Drive
minor bug and enhancement
segue
release
with
to
WordPress.
5.0.
So
Yeah,
that's for all you
Google and PayPal are the only
that will be,
non-hosts
you
that
know,
are
think of
huge.
the plus
Really?
0.
Besides Jetpack and WooCommerce, yeah.
there's just a lot of things that because
PayPal and Google have boosts again, just like they did at Europe. Remember, Jen?
Yep.
And it's just big, just like that. Huge
what I would really like to move to, I don't know if 2 weeks is possible, though I think it's good to aspire to, is where every time there's essentially such a regular cadence.
You guys feel like we're kind of like
essentially start development on the next sprint or 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do.
Freeze the previous sprint. So that sort of branches into an RC that goes out to everyone who wants to test it, people who are on more of the beta or stable channel, and then a week later, we can release it to the world. So when we get to that more regular cadence, I think it's going to be better for all users of WordPress.
We're going to have a regular cadence of updates.
That's the minor releases, major
I know
releases.
at WordCamp Portland, the Q&A, he said it could be every 2 weeks.
No, I think that's...
Oh, that sounds like Yoast.
No problem. Thank you. And let's start wrapping up here.
That's
so
what
last
they
question. Last couple.
Hey, Matt.
Howdy.
Michael Bissett of SoFly. You piqued my interest earlier about the idea of having native multilingual functionality in WordPress. Today, we've got players like WPML, Polylang, the fellows at Multipress. Hi. They're back there in the green shirts. But I'm wondering, granted, it's planned for 2020 plus, so maybe there's not that big of a sketch yet. But I'm curious, what's this going to look like from a functional standpoint?
And also, what does it look like in a post-block
He's still
world?
talking, you guys.
So
Look,
the blocks
the
perhaps
mic,
provide
he's
a
talking
different
to the
layer
mic,
of granularity or control that you might want to branch out a site written in one language into other languages.
I was talking about
You don't want to
multilingual.
sort of prescribe any particular technical direction because we just need to do some experiments and see what works best there. There's been promising work around multi-site, so where each kind of language is its own site, and then you have something running to kind of synchronize them or show like
multi-press
language and not the other.
Database tables for no good reason.
You could also do similar things by sending permissions and custom post types and all sorts of other ways you can kind of skin that cat. And I don't know
exactly. The cat.
I kind of
Skinning the cat
more
means
the,
to take the skin off a cat, not to put it in
I think it's really interesting to truly internationalize the site. Maybe you're not just
oh my God, Matt, come on. I love you, but
translating the images, translating all
this guy
parts of the site.
He needs a wife so hard.
Express themselves as a different theme, but in the future, we could have some sort of workflow, collaboration workflow attached.
I'm serious, like John and Abigail Adams.
That is completely driven.
She made him better. She helped him refine his speeches.
So don't worry. There's nothing that's been decided here. There's no we.
Yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates.
Something.
Steve Jobs didn't have a wife.
He said there is no we.
I want to start
Steve Jobs is married, had kids.
And kind of aim for that once we get
he had kids, but he wasn't married.
Place where
he's married.
He had illegitimate kids.
Like we saw earlier.
He's married.
That this is probably one of the next big things we need to address with WordPress.
Oh, there's more questions.
All right, thank you.
Cool. All right, we'll do one more, and then you can be the last one. All right, so
last question.
Hi, my name is Dmitry. I'm the founder of a theme shop called Theme Patio, and also lead organizer of WordCamp Moscow twice.
Ooh,
my question
nice.
is, for quite a long time, there was this notion that theme is responsible for visual representation of the website, and plugin is for adding functionality and more complex stuff like that. Now, after the release of WordPress 5.0, we have basically a theme is responsible for basic styling, adding CSS, maybe some basic JavaScript, and nothing more. And people start releasing plugins that add blocks, which is fun. And you also mentioned that in one of the next phases, you may want to introduce a repository for blocks. So can you elaborate on that? Do you see that happening, and how fast? And
aren't plugins going to make blocks? Aren't blocks and plugins synonymous now?
New blocks, and how do you see that?
Yeah. Yes and no. Depends on
we're going to see.
you're using.
Yeah. Right? So 4.9 is plugin. 5.0 is blocks.
Making themes can go into making blocks, combinations of blocks, pre-made layouts, kind of these configurations essentially. A future version of what I showed with that import and export of JSON, I think is like the first bits of what is going to become really what is exciting for people building their WordPresses in the future. I also think that it'd be nice to have a clean, well-lit place for everyone to find these, just like the plugin and theme directories aspire to be today. And I would love for there to be essentially parallel to the plugin directory, a block directory, and then parallel to themes, kind of a layout builder type thing. So you can choose different. But I don't know what that exactly is going to work like.
That makes a fork. So the
meantime,
5.0 things are layout.
Themes. I do encourage
4.9 themes.
blocks being registered to be in a plugin.
5.0
But
block.
please don't do that in
4.9
It might even be an official guideline.
That's a fork.
But what's cool about that is it then allows more portability across themes and more of that kind of design happening in a way that also is.
You know what that also means, guys?
Portable. It's probably the
What's
best way to
that?
put it.
Yeah, so
Two new make WordPress teams.
In terms of themes, collection of
Block
blocks,
repository.
Yeah, because that's managed by the Make WordPress.
Thank you.
Oh, Christy Chirinos.
Thank you for organizing WordCamp Moscow.
Really?
It's one of the places I want to make it
Yeah,
happen.
from
right.
Caldera Labs.
Shutting it down.
Yay!
Hi, Matt. My name is Christy Chirinos, and I am one of the co-owners of Caldera WP. We make Caldera Forms, a drag-and-drop form builder for WordPress.
Check her out.
Wow.
And my question to you is, now that
One of the only women besides Birgit.
Tell
They're only two.
outside of WordPress about it, how are you going to make sure that people who have been burned by WordPress, people who fill their mouths on Twitter and elsewhere saying that WordPress sucks and can do something else, know that Gutenberg is out, that WordPress is better than ever, and that they need to try it out?
Yeah. What do you think?
Dang, girl.
I asked you. You can't hit me back with a question.
Good job.
Okay, this is officially the tougher question side of it. For all future WordCamps, go to the right side if you are going to ask the tougher things. I think we need to continue what we've been doing. Like, that's why I highlighted like how many WordCamp sessions, how many talks, et cetera, have been done on this.
How about the marketing team that you
How
have?
we talk about it, there is an
with a really great person in charge of it named Bridget.
You know, so once it's in WordPress, it kind of is, I think within the interface, it makes more sense to refer it to the block editor. It's also easier to contrast the block editor to classic editor. So that's a lot of the terminology that we've been using.
Oh, block editor is what we're calling
Outside
it.
of that, the Gutenberg name has really taken hold.
Drupal Gutenberg?
That's not trademarked or anything. So you can go to Drupal Gutenberg dot whatever it was, I don't remember. And that is the Drupal version of Gutenberg.
You can't
and that's
trademark Gutenberg because it was oppressed in the whatever 15, 14 something.
We're not just affecting 32% of the web when we can make improvements. When we improve Gutenberg, that could potentially go even to other CMSs, even to other native mobile apps.
MailChimp, Constant
Maybe even
Contact.
other social networks can adopt it. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, when you're creating your emails on MailChimp or Constant Contact, that was a Gutenberg builder and had the same blocks? And perhaps they
Oh, that's a SaaS. That would be a SaaS.
from the open ecosystem.
Ooh, AMP.
You can do cool things to it.
See,
and
XWP makes AMP.
the HTML and CSS that's appropriate for email, just like the AMP plugin
Oh
is
my
transforming.
God, this is a Google thing. I'm telling you, this
So
is
this-
Google.
I could have never even
That's
imagined
what I'm saying.
that sort of
When's
adoption
Google gonna buy
5 or 10 years
Automatic?
ago.
Listen, Google has
I kind of
Leo.
wrote a public love letter.
Google has Western
Drupal is my
Router.
other favorite
Google
open source
has
project. They're really cool.
just hired Felix
We
Arns.
learn a lot from each other, and we talk. We'd hang out. We'd say, "Hey, is there anything we can do together?" And we'd always come up like, "Oh, can we have plugins work across it?" No, because then you have the data layers, and we both have our authentication. We both have our all our
36
functions,
people
all
and
the helpers.
watching
Like, it's
video.
hard to find something. But with Gutenberg, we've created a layer of abstraction that plausibly, not just in theory, but in reality, now has the same code running across Drupal and WordPress. And I think that is just
Drupal and WordPress.
So we need to continue to educate people, teach them how to use blocks, make more tutorials, make more block builders. And I think actually the built-in directories will help a lot. If we do
So
it right,
when Morton asked
we can make
about
it so
we,
that when you're
who's
in
making these
and you
videos?
search for something that's not there,
Who's
we can
teaching
also
people
show you
about
what the
WordPress?
directories
Who's
are.
the we that's
And by
teaching
clicking on it,
people?
it'll in the background install a plugin,
Yep.
activate it, and then the block enters right there. It can be completely seamless. So again, you're not just building
Beta,
your
now it's 1
site or
million
page with
native
what
blocks.
you happen to have installed. You're building
jeez.
the wealth of flexibility and control that WordPress provides. So, all right. With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we break, I did want to show you a little video if you haven't seen this yet. We made a release video for 5.0 Bebo, but also shows a little bit of phase 2. So if you will grant me a minute, let's go ahead and click play here.
You should have started with this. It should have started with the video. Come on.
Didn't they do that last year?
Yeah. This video's rad.
It is really cool.
This should have started with this video. It was a mistake not to start this with this.
Well, he doesn't want people to remember the question, so he wants them leaving talking about this.
Well, I thought you said to be nice. This video's bitching. I wonder who made it. I wonder if it was Mel or. That is a great video. That is a really great video.
Notice they did it in blues to calm everyone.
Yep. See, they probably put gas out there too. Just like Disneyland pumps out churros now. Say the word, Nashville, Tennessee, 2018.
Thank you all so much.
Applause.
You accomplished this year I didn't think was possible. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
We is gonna be the new drinking game because Morton started it. That's why he was in the bathroom and empty his bladder before. What do you think, guys? I mean,
like I said, I feel like I'm gonna get myself fired from a job I don't have, which is, you know, something that's 100% dependent on WordPress. But just the idea that there's one governing body, which is this we that is Matt, and it seems like Morton's question wasn't given enough thought. Like he responded to it, or no, rather he how do you say it? Like he reacted to the question, not responded to the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he took too much offense to the fact that he was using this term we as a way of kind of describing all this stuff, and it's frustrating to see that a question which usually Morton really kills it on his questions. Typically, you know, when at least last year, that was what I walked out of there going, I don't know what anybody else asked, but the question Morton asked, that was the one that I remember.
Right.
Now it's like, I don't know, it just seems like that this idea of this we that he keeps describing is he's trying to make sure that when he's talking about the WordPress community that he's including himself in it.
Yeah.
But the folks that are involved in WordPress themselves don't feel like he is as involved in it, which is why he's like, oh, I'm going to run, the 5.0 release. It's like, okay. But I can't say that, like, if I were to go and ask a question to Matt, I don't think I would have congratulated Matt on the success of launching 5.0. I think I would have turned around and just mentioned it to the entire community there, congratulating them on releasing 5.0 before an arbitrary date, which is, WordCamp US.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. I would have went and said, thank you all for doing this, ridiculous thing that we ended up doing, and cool. Me personally, that's my words saying that. It seems like there was a lot of kind of stress put on people that needed to, that really didn't need to, especially at a time where, especially in North America, you have, or rather just Christmas in general, just dealing with Christmas type stuff leading up to this. And then also coming off Thanksgiving here in North America and just kind of getting off of Black Friday stuff in North America. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens at the end of the year that this is a really hard time to do a launch for something like this.
Yeah. Just
because of, they're doing a Stay of the Word and they want to have something to talk about, which is why, like, I mean, for me, for WPwatercooler, for instance, we had our 300th episode comes up next week and everyone was like, oh, you should make 300 this week because of WordCamp. And I'm like,
right.
Oh, I'm not changing something just because a WordCamp's happening. Are you kidding me? Nope. Sorry. Not happening. $2.99.
Right. So,
yeah,
you know, I get it. Like, I get everybody wants the end of the year. Every company does it. They look back what they did. As a culture, we like to, you know, start a new year fresh. I understand the reasoning. If we had frozen the release, if we had frozen Gutenberg in September or August, then people would have had time, you know, to really talk about it. And I feel like, yeah, that was kind of an issue because it was ridiculously not ready. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't ready. I mean, I've even just me doing a 2-hour kind of tutorial video type thing of walking through WordPress 5.0. I removed every plugin that was installed on my personal site. I just installed very basic stuff that's stuff from WordPress themselves, and I started playing around with it. And I'd be in a page that I wanted to edit, and I would go up to the top and click on edit, and it would say, this was edited using the classic editor.
Yeah.
Editing in Gutenberg. And I'm like, okay. And I push okay. And I got stuck in a loop and it wouldn't let me get out of the loop. And I was like, if I was a client of mine, you know, using this after it was launched and I'm about ready to use Gutenberg for the first time, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what's wrong with this thing? This thing's all screwed up. I don't get it. Why am I using this thing? I don't understand it. So I spent a lot of time like deciphering how is this thing doing this, and I ended up having to remove like ampersand like editor, classic editor or something like that at the end of the URL in order to get out of it. But I'm just like, wow, like I don't understand why this needs to be this way. Yeah. So yeah, there's a bunch of those sorts of things that kept cropping up within me using WordPress 5.0.
I will say my favorite thing about the new editor is the cut and paste from Google Docs. 100%. 100%. I use Gutenberg every week when I'm in a Make WordPress.
Right.
And we collaborate heavily in Google Docs. It pastes without span codes, and it just works. It even does images, and then they're in the library. It's freaking awesome. I never have had an issue with a site going forward with Gutenberg. I've only had compatibility issues, right? So, and questions about the compatibility. Never about how, there's a lot that's super awesome. And, I write in Google Docs because I collaborate with other people. For my own side, I don't. And it's frustrating because the Gutenberg editor is not distraction free at all. To compose in the Gutenberg editor, I find cumbersome. To paste from Google Docs is awesome, right? So it'll be just interesting to see how it works with somebody's blog like mine, who has a few hundred posts. How is that going to behave? Because I do go backwards and edit posts, and maybe it's a good time for me to do the site audit that Yoast keeps emailing me about. I was talking to them about it today. Like, it's like cleaning out a garage. Maybe this is a good time for all of us to do a structure, a SEO structure audit.
Right.
And then get rid of the stuff that's not worth 25 cents at a garage sale. I mean, we could definitely not be the, people who are bogged down in that, but it's just been my role over this past year and a half as part of the Make WordPress marketing team to make people aware in the reality and stop saying, oh, it's going to be awesome. And then be like, holy crap, I'm not ready for this. Right. So that was been my job. My job is now finished. So people now know it's there, it's dropped, and now we can go forward. I was honestly a little bit disappointed with some of the demeaning comments, like if English isn't your first language, that was not smart. There was a couple other comments he made that were, especially about Birgit. So there were two questions from women, Birgit from Germany and Christy Chirinos. And, he tried to mansplain Christy, but she's not going to stand up for that. Birgit's talking about Rion leaving the WordPress accessibility team, Heather Burns and Leo leading the core privacy team they used to be GDPR, who has been completely unrecognized. And that's when you're dealing with an open source project that relies upon volunteer labor. Jason, you and I had a WPblab episode maybe a few dozen back, about valuing your volunteers. So as far as like recruiting and keeping volunteers in a nonprofit, the most important thing is to value your volunteers. And this is a giant volunteer organization. The most important thing is to always say, look, you gave an hour this week. You want the 5 for the future. People are giving their time, and they're giving their time so hard. WordCamp organizing, meetup organizing, that's all part, in my opinion, of 5 for the future. Not to mention to make WordPress, right? Or speaking at WordCamps and all of that. So I think we need to, if Matt said, Bridget, what should I do? I would say I would do two things. I would work very hard on recognizing the fact that this is a volunteer organization. And number two, I would spend time in the meetings of the Make WordPress teams. At least one meeting per team per month. Because it feels like when you're working and working and working, it feels like your work is never going to see the light of day. What you have is somebody who's burnt out, understandably, and then they say, why am I volunteering? And the biggest threat to me right now with WordPress is attrition in the volunteer force.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so it was good state of the word. I'm glad he didn't pull a Steve Jobs and put all the Gutenberg stuff at the end, which is, let's just talk about it. I'm glad he did that. Right. It is awesome. I mean, I repeat it. Gutenberg is awesome. I only worry about how it's going to affect, other people. I've only told hosting companies to be aware that they're going to be the first line of defense. They are going to be blamed for things that don't work. And that's a reality. Other than that, let's keep publishing, but WordPress as a volunteer organization, as a project, is going to have to get more serious about recognizing the people who put in their blood, sweat, and tears, literally blood, sweat, and tears. And I talked to, these are my friends, all of us are all committed to WordPress so hard. And if we don't have the people, you don't have the project.
Yeah. And try your best not to alienate the people that are in the room. that right there, that hurt me. I'm just watching this going like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Jen, you got anything to say?
I've just been talking as things came up. So no, I think I'm good.
Alrighty. Well, my kid's gonna be heading out of here, so I want to make sure I say bye to her before she leaves. So
that's awesome.
I didn't realize this thing was gonna be like a 4-hour ordeal, because
that's how it is.
Yep. At least we didn't have to wait in line.
That's true.
And I got to use the bathroom.
Check you out.
Thank you.
This is real life.
For filling in.
See. Yep.
I got 3 different hexadecimal codes for his time, by the way.
Luckily, you don't have to buy them in hexadecimal. So
yeah. Okay. Well, cornflower blue. This is WPblab signing off from our special edition State of Word WordCamp US. If you liked our show, press thumbs up. If you didn't, do it twice. We're available on every podcast thing that you can even imagine: Stitcher, Vimeo, Snapchat, YouTube. It's all there. iTunes. I think we're still on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. So if you like us, donate. If you don't like us, leave us a comment and share it with your friends.
Yep. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Safe travels.